Today we're going to discuss tides, Chapter 1, Section 5. The three words we're going to look at and discuss are tide, spring tide, and neap tide. First of all, tides are the periodic rise and fall of the level of water in Earth's oceans. In my first diagram here, I have E for Earth, and I put 4 moons going around counterclockwise around the Earth. H will represent, in this diagram, what I'll show for high tide, L will be low tide. And just to kind of briefly just explain that the moon has a pull or of attraction on the Earth. That pull, because it's a large enough object to pull on its force of attraction on the Earth, it will pull on Earth's oceans, and we'll see the ocean be pulled out. And if it's not in this position, then it will not have as much of a strength of pull. So here I have divided out 4 sections to show like a snapshot 6 hours later, so you can see why there's 2 high tides and 2 low tides during a 24-hour period. And this first snapshot, you can see I put E for Earth and H is for high tides, L for low tides. The moon's over here. As the moon is aligned over here, it has a strong pull of attraction, and you'll have a high tide. The Earth is also spinning around, and because of that effect of spinning around, it creates another high tide over here as well on this side of the Earth. So these 2 sides will be in high tide. The water, since it's being pulled out this way, these 2 sides will have least amount of water, because remember, all the water's one. So the water is being pulled out or drained this way, and these 2 sides will have the water come in from the ocean. Over here, this is 6 hours later from that. So as the moon comes around this way in the next picture, now this spot on the Earth will be in high tide, and this area will now be in low tide. So now the strength is over here. Notice wherever the moon's aligned, it will have the high tide. 6 hours later, okay, what do you think the picture will look like? And then give yourself another snapshot about 6 hours later. What do you guess it will look like? So this would be the first 6 hours, next 3 and 4, totaling 24 hours. Okay, so where would those high tides and low tides be? Okay, there are 2 different kinds of high tide special ones. And with that, let's put our sheet, our notes side by side so we can do a compare and contrast. The first one we're going to talk about is the neap tide. And the neap tide is the tide with the least difference between consecutive low tides and high tides. So the neap tide is, first of all, to note, it's during the 1st and 3rd quarter moon phase. And the moon, sun, and Earth make the right angles to each other. And so you want to draw a picture like this. Okay, so here's the sun, here is the Earth, and here is the moon. See, this phase right here that we talked about in the other section is a 1st quarter moon. And so this is what we mean by the right angle to each other. See how it looks like a right angle. And the sun is trying to pull, it is pulling on the Earth, and the moon is pulling on the Earth, the gravitational force. Since they're both trying to pull, and they both can attract the water from Earth, it will cancel each other out, and it will not have an effect on how much water is being pulled out for the 1st and 3rd quarter phases. And the Earth will have, it's almost like canceling out how much water is going to be taken out of the Earth and bulged out. So that creates, during the time when you're on the beach, you will not see the ocean's high tide or low tide really be affected. It looks like it's really not moving. It's kind of even on the beach. Whereas the spring tide during the new and full moon phases, the moon, Earth, and sun make a straight line to each other. And so this is an example of just the new moon, and see how the sun's over here. Here's the M for moon, Earth, and they're in a line. So together, the moon and the sun are pulling on the earth. It's an extra strong pull in that direction, so that the ocean water is really pulled out. And so that's when you go to the beach and you see these really big, super high tides and extremely low tides. That's probably one of my favorite times to go to the beach, because you really have a lot of sand during that new moon or full moon phase, because you have an extreme amount of water coming in and out during a spring tide during those two phases. Okay, that's it for that. It was a nice short section. I hope your notes were easy. If you need some help, tell me in class. Thank you so much.